Welcome back to another lesson. So today we're talking about lesson 1.4, which is called multiplying and dividing integers. We're going to start in your notes packet on pages 12 and 13 for today. So if you could go ahead, open up to notes page 12, and you want to make sure that you are copying down the notes as we go through, and then also make sure that you have everything ready to roll. And if not, or you have some issues with it, go ahead, pause the video, go back, move around, whatever you need to do with this one. So for today, multiplying and dividing integers are probably the easiest kind of thing for us to be able to do. And multiplication is kind of a pretty neat process that we have here. So multiplying or dividing two integers with the same sign, your answer is always going to end up positive. So if we have, for example, 2 times 3, which is what you're used to doing from elementary school, 2 times 3 is going to give you 6. They're both positive numbers. You get a positive answer. Same thing if we had negative 2 times a negative 3. They're both negative, so you're going to actually still end up with a positive answer. So multiplying or dividing two integers with different signs, then your answer is always going to end up being a negative. So if you have two numbers and one of them is a negative, your answer is going to be a negative here. So our first example, we have 5 times a negative 8. First number is positive, second number is negative. Based on our rules, they have different signs. So our answer is a negative, and 5 times 8 is 40. Example number 2, negative 12 times negative 6. Negative and negative, so the signs are the same, so our answer is going to be a positive. We don't have to write a plus sign down, so we just do 12 times 6, 72. In example number 3, this bar right here is actually a division sign for us. It looks like a fraction, but fraction signs are just division signs. So we read this as negative 15 divided by negative 3. Start at the top and read going down, just like you do in a book. So a negative divided by a negative, the signs are the same. Your answer will be positive. 15 divided by 3 is 5. In example 4, notice that this negative symbol is actually out here on the outside. What I'm going to ask you to do is to pick, and I either want you to move that negative instead of just being out front here, either move it to the top with your numerator of 18 or move it down with your denominator of 6, not 16. I'm going to go ahead and move it up to the top and make my negative to be 18 and my 6 is going to stay positive. Because there's one negative out front, that's what you're going to do. So you have negative 18 divided by 6. Signs are different. Your answer is negative, and 18 divided by 6 is 3. Take a look at example number 5. You have negative 35 divided by 7. Think about your rules. Think about your symbols. What's your answer? Negative 5 would be correct. Signs are different. 35 divided by 7 is 5. Example number 6. 49 divided by a negative 7. Signs are different. The answer number is 7. In example number 7, which is missing here. Oh, here we go. So we have 8, and I believe 7 is going to be hiding underneath. There it is. All right, so we're going to go ahead and look at example number 7 here. And we have a whole bunch of different pieces here. Since they're all multiplication, we're just going to work our way left to right. Negative 2 times 7 would be a negative 14 times a negative 3 times a negative 2. Negative 14 times negative 3, negative times a negative will be a positive. 3 times 14, well, 3 times 10 is 30, 3 times 4 is 12, 30 plus 12, 42, times a negative 2. A positive times a negative will give you a negative, and 42 times 2 is 84. Example number 8. We have 3 numbers multiplied, so we're just going to work our way left to right. Negative 11 times 5 will give me negative 55 times negative 2. Negative times a negative will give me a positive, and 55 times 2 is going to be 110. So we had a couple different things going on here, and this kind of brings us to this little box that you'll see underneath example 8 in your notes packet, which I also have here on the side. And if you noticed over here in example number 7, we had 1 negative, 2 negative, 3 negative numbers and 1 positive. So the positives aren't really going to change anything. It's the negatives when we're multiplying that cause us the issues. So 3 negative numbers, and I ended up with a negative answer. Down here in example 8, if you look, I had 2 negative numbers, and I ended up with a positive. So a little rule that makes this kind of easy for you, which could have eliminated us playing around with these negatives here. If I have an even number of negatives that are all being multiplied together, my answer is always going to be positive, because a negative times a negative, that's 2 that you would need. For every set of 2, they basically cancel each other out and make them positive. When you have an odd number of negatives, though, the negative times the negative here makes it positive, but then you get multiplied by another negative, so you have an odd number of negatives. What would be the sign of the product of 10 negatives? So 10 is an even number, which tells me that if I'm multiplying them, I'm going to end up with a positive answer. In number 10, what would be the sign of the product of 5 negatives? 5 is odd, so because of that, it would be a negative number. In example 11, what would be the sign of the product of 8 positives? 8 is even, so your answer would be positive then. All right. On the next page in your notes packet, this is page number 13 here. We have up at the top, draw a line from each expression to the word problem it could represent. So we're going to be looking at these in real life and trying to figure out, again, kind of like our adding lesson, are we talking about positive or negative numbers here? So in the first one, a football team loses a total of 12 yards in 4 plays. So that happened. Loss of 12, so that's going to be a negative 12 in 4 plays. On average, how many yards did the team move per play? So there's a couple words here, average and per, that are telling us that we're actually dividing here. So we're losing 12, negative 12 divided by 4 plays, and I actually see that right down here. The next one that we have, the temperature of the ocean water dropped 4 degrees every hour. After 12 hours, what was the change in the water temperature? So it's dropping 4, so that's a negative 4, 12 times because it's every hour. So a negative 4, 12 times. So a negative 4 times 12, and I actually see that right here. So those are going to match up together. A garden consists of 12 rose bushes in each of 4 rows. How many rose bushes does the garden have altogether? So there's 12 rose bushes, and there are 4 rows of them. So of is a key word in math that we're multiplying. So 12 rose bushes, 4 rows, everything's positive here, and I see that right up there. Next one, every second a snail crawls 12 millimeters down a hole. How many millimeters will the snail have crawled after 4 seconds? So in 1 second, he goes negative 12, and he's going to do that 4 times because for 4 seconds. So a negative 12 times a 4 is going to go right here. And our last one then, obviously it's going to match up with this negative 3 times negative 4, but let's just check. During a drought, a pond's fish population decreased by 3, so that was a negative 3, for every meter drop in the pond's water level. At that rate, how many fish died once the water level dropped 4 meters? So dropped negative 4. So down 3 for every negative 4 meters, and there we go. All right, we have 2 more examples then to get through with this lesson. A movie rental company deducts $7, so it's going to be a negative for every month for a year. After 1 year, how much do movie rental fees change Serena's account? So for Serena's account, the negative 7 is happening every month, and there are 12 months in a year. So we're going to multiply that by 12, and we're going to get negative $84. So what does this negative symbol actually mean when we talk about our answer here? Having the negative there, it says how much are they changing her account? Well, the negative is telling us that that money is getting taken out. So it's no longer Serena's money anymore. So it gets paid to the company. Final example that we have here, we have write the expression under the category that correctly describes the number to which it simplifies. We're going to call this A, B, C, D, E, and F. If you would go ahead and actually label those for me. All right, so having all those labeled, we're going to go ahead and go through here. If we have a negative outside these parentheses, we're going to do 8 divided by 2 first, and that negative is then going to apply after the fact. So that is actually going to give us a negative number there. Negative 5 times a negative 4, signs are the same, we're multiplying, that'll give us a positive. Letter C here, I'm going to have you take a look at. You have 6 divided by negative 3. Is C going to be a negative or a positive? C is in fact a negative because you have 2 different signs. D, you have negative 10 divided by negative 10. Signs are the same. That's going to give you a positive. For letter E, you have negative 25 times negative 4. Is that going to be a positive or a negative? That one is also a positive because a negative times a negative. And then letter F, you have negative 21 divided by 7. That is going to give you a negative. So that goes ahead, that wraps up our lesson today for multiplying and dividing with integers. So if you notice, we just jumped into with the rule. You're going to have a couple practice things where you do some visualization with this and what it looks like on a number line. And then we'll kind of go from there. So please make sure that you have filled in your notes packet for today and make sure that that gets uploaded then. Thanks.